It's noisy and bright, no one cares. But I'm happy in my rose-colored corner. No hurry to go anywhere. People, they stop and they stare. Discuss what really isn't there. But I'm happy in my rose-colored corner. No hurry to go anywhere.
I love that song.
That song is groovy.
The bass line, I swear Rihanna stole in her song Consideration, which was the first song on Anti.
I'm not going to argue with you because, frankly, you know a lot more about Rihanna than I do.
I really don't know a lot about Rihanna. I never really liked her except for Stay until this recent album, Anti. Actually, there are so many good songs, honestly, on that Rihanna album.
I just like the video for Bitch Better Have My Money.
I don't know it.
She kidnaps a rich white bitch and, you know,
that makes sense.
Makes her feel bad about being how she is. Anyways,
Anywho.
Welcome back to the Light in the Attic podcast. I'm Hillary.
I'm Jackie.
And this month, we're going to be talking about some bad bitches and all these lovely ladies and wonderful women.
Women only this episode. We kind of initially wanted to make an episode about sexism in the music industry, but when we actually sat down and had conversations with these awesome women, that stuff didn't even feel relevant. Because we ended up just having such interesting conversations, and sexism in the industry is important, but I don't know, I just thought it was cool that it became such a secondary issue, because instead we were listening to, you know, two women nerding out about like synesthesia and like crazy methods of sound recording that I'd never heard of. And yeah.
I think everyone we interviewed for this episode had a really positive attitude, and a lot of these women were able to overcome these issues that they faced and make out for the better with this amazing music and content. And it's cool that they didn't dwell on that, even though it's a real thing.
Yeah, but we wanted to sort of open a conversation about that topic on the podcast. So we actually reached out to our audience on social media and asked people to submit just stories of their experiences as women in the music industry. We got some really interesting responses, and we're going to share a few of them during the episode just to like get the ball rolling on this conversation and keep it open so that we can come back to it in later episodes. First, we're going to talk to Lynn Castle, whose song opened the episode.
That track was called Rose-Colored Corner, and it was Lynn Castle along with the band Last Friday's Fire. And that song was actually featured in our Lee Hazelwood box set that came out a few years ago called There's a Dream I've Been Saving.
Later on, we'll hear a conversation between contemporary electronic musician Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith and Suzanne Doucet, who is an authority on New Age music.
So let's talk a little bit about Lynn Castle, who's one of our favorite people in the world. Lynn was born in Los Angeles. She grew up in the Valley, just like Jackie.
That's true.
And Lynn was one of the first lady barbers in LA.
Yeah, because traditionally barbers were male.
True.
Men cutting men's hair. But she was bored cutting women's hair, I think. So she was like, I'm going to cut dudes' hair. And she got really, really good at it. And
ended up cutting the hair of very famous people.
Right.
Sonny Bono.
One of the Monkees.
Lee Hazelwood.
She worked at a salon on Sunset Boulevard. She started playing piano at a really early age and had sort of like a preternatural talent for it. So when Lynn was a teenager, she wrote a song that the Spinners bought and released. And that was her first entrance into the music world. And it was through that she wound up meeting Lee Hazelwood. And I guess the rest is history, but she ended up meeting a lot of crazy characters in the music industry.
Yeah, Lynn was also painfully shy while she was growing up, although she loved writing and singing songs. She would do it in her closet after her young kids had gone to bed. She had 2 kids by the time she was 22, which kind of hampered her dreams for really blockbuster stardom because she had a family to take care of course.
Right, so she cut hair to make ends meet.
And ended up recording with Lee Hazelwood and Jack Nitzsche, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think it was Jack and Lee who were like, you're amazing, and we need to like record these songs.
And it's funny because to this day she still doesn't like her voice,
Which is amazing. Her
doesn't think she can play guitar very well. And her voice is incredible. Her voice is what draws you in. It's so
unique.
It's dark and kind of mysterious. We always talk about having a Nico-esque sort of tone to it. Mm-hmm. And she only recorded 2 tracks. I think we mentioned earlier 2 tracks with the band Last Friday's Fire. And then the rest of the recordings on this album have never been released before. And they are very stripped down, demo style, just Lynn, acoustic guitar, and a microphone. And it's really beautiful.
Right, and she recorded those with Jack Nitzsche in 1966.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with Jack Nitzsche, I'm sure a lot of you are. He was a really prolific arranger, composer, producer, and he helped make music magic for everyone, from Ike and Tina Turner to Leon Russell and the Wrecking Crew to the Rolling Stones to Neil Young. He did the soundtrack for an amazing movie I just saw called Hardcore from the 70s. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Paul Schrader. But Lynn, we had the pleasure of recently going to Lynn's house in Glendale and recording an interview with her. And it was one of the most magical experiences of my life.
It was. I mean, we just went over there on a work day to record an interview for like half an hour, but it turned into this whole beautiful magical day. Lynn had made a whole meal for us, and we ate in her backyard under an umbrella, and she showed us around
wraps.
her delicious lettuce wraps with like it was like a curry what was
salmon
it?
Salmon.
What's
It was
like
really
that.
good.
And like
sparkling water,
roasted sweet potatoes, which are like my favorite thing. And she had these like healthy cookies and this magic coffee that she makes with coconut milk and maple syrup.
She knows what's up. Lynn is enlightened for sure.
Yeah.
She also has this really interesting fixation with fairy tales and both the villains and the heroes, which I find really interesting. She loves the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood. She had a statue of the wolf and she called him her boyfriend. But she also loves like Cinderella, Snow White.
She said, and it says in our liner notes that she's like always felt an affinity for Disney princesses because they go through so much shit, but they always stay positive and kind and good.
I respect her so much. And another thing I really respect about her is that she will tell you this herself. She's over 70 years old and she has taught herself to use Pro Tools.
Which I can't do.
I can't either. She taught herself Pro Tools. She's been composing music right now. She's still composing music, writing songs.
She's the youngest, coolest 7-year-old person I've ever met.
We love you, Lynn. If you're listening, you're our queen. And I just wanted to share this quote from the liner notes. When I was young, making music in the 60s, I had this strange thought that one day I would be this old woman and young people would come find me and tell me that my music meant something to them.
And here we are.
And here we are. It means something to us and to a lot of other people too.
Here's Lynn.
Well, am I, lonesome lookout, gazing at the lonely out there, just one me and somewhere you, a heart divided now in two, head so full of emptiness, thinking of the future past, eyes now tearing to bright springtime, forever beginning. Now is
Asking somebody who they are. Oh
big,
my God.
Big question, huh?
Exactly. Well, the fact that you're here, you know me as Lynn Castle.
Yes.
I'm Madelyn. I was born Madelyn. Von Ritz, heaven sent. I was married. My husband died, but it was Collins. But there was a lot of Lynn Collins and everything, and I'm just that, hey, Madelyn Von Ritz, why not? And you can have fun writing it, Okay, go ahead. What? What now?
All right. What now?
You had 2 kids by the time you were 22. Did being a single mother affect your music career, and how?
Oh my God. Okay. I never really pushed myself, so I'm not a salesperson on behalf of myself. But I knew my whole life that I've loved movies and music and dance, whatever. But yes, because I had to take care of them.
Right.
Yeah. And pay the rent. And I was like, that was crazy because I had no tools. Everything learned right on the street, however best I could. Yeah.
Do you think that you would have pursued music as a career more directly?
Vehemently?
Yeah, if you didn't have, little mouths to feed?
I'd like to think that I would have.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that because I still really wrote. I was just so closed about it. I just thought I didn't think I was really any good. So
Really?
no.
God. Like really?
No.
You didn't think deep down you were kind of amazing?
No,
but
I just no. I never. But for some reason, sometimes I felt that I could kind of write true from my heart. So I loved that. It was a place for my heart to go. Yeah.
Cool.
That was it.
Cool. Lee Hazelwood and Jack Nitzsche were supporters of yours. What, if anything, do you think that you learned from them about music or the music industry?
I still almost know nothing about the music industry. I know Jack was very successful, but he was a very austere type himself, you know. Yeah. In fact, his thing, he had this Indian passion, so everything in pirate passion and all that. And I met him when really young with Phil Spector. That's how I met him.
Oh, that young?
Yeah.
'Cause
I met Phil when I was in
high school, right?
Yeah, high school.
High school sweethearts?
Well, no, because we were. I was in the valley and he was in the hill. I don't know how that even happened. I really don't.
How you ended up dating him?
How he ended up. How did he make it out to the valley to find me?
Well, didn't he have a blue Corvette?
Not then. Not at
yet.
that point. Not at that point. He hadn't quite hit success. He was really writing to know him is to love him.
Oh my God!
And
I love
he used
that
to
song.
sneak in the window because I was just a teenager. But I always wanted to be over the hill, and fuck, now I am.
Well, yeah.
No, listen, no, only kidding. Whatever. Okay. So
I was a valley girl too, and I always thought.
But
the
I
other side
really
of town
wasn't.
Was cooler.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but I never had that.
Right.
I always had like a more of an. Even though I was born in the East Coast and never really lived there, I just think I kind of have that East Coast. Well, I don't know, but that's what people say about me. But I have an East Coast kind of country thing going at the same time.
Yeah.
And Lee Hazelwood was funny, and funny. And he actually gave me my first guitar,
Oh yeah.
a little Rosewood Martin.
Right. Do you still have it?
No, the guy I was married to asked to borrow it. And I'm always saying, yeah, sure, sure, sure. And he left it in the rain. He took it and left it in the rain.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really sad. A beautiful little rosewood guitar.
How cool.
I loved it.
Did you encounter or witness sexism in the music industry back when you were hanging with Lee and Jack?
I never even thought of that word.
I had a feeling that you would say that for some reason.
No friggin' way. Seriously, I miss it the way guys used to be. They don't even know how to be anymore.
What do you mean?
I'm not saying that you got to get pinched on the ass or something, but you know what I mean? Flirting is cool. It's fun. It's neat. You know? And hey, baby, you know, I liked the way it was. I liked it better. There's so many, there's so many friggin' rules and do nots and don't do this and I'm going to sue you, you know?
Yeah.
I think if you feel okay about yourself and girls could feel more playful, I'm just not that way. I don't think in those terms. And I'm sure maybe there is, or there wouldn't be such a big deal, you know? Yeah. I do believe in equal pay, equal job, equal pay. I believe in things that are right.
Yeah.
More than I look at it as a sexist thing.
Do you have any advice for young musicians?
If your heart, if your spirit, pay no attention to anything. Just keep doing it as best as you possibly can. Do not lose your heart on some road where you get old really young, you start getting sick all over the place, you're a victim of suppression. And why? Because you couldn't or didn't ever hear or get your calling. And don't ever compare yourself to anybody or anything. If you're writing for somebody or doing something like that, well, then you got to think in more of those terms. Oh, shit, this would sound really good if this. I only figure, is it good enough that I can make a song out of it? And if someone else likes it, that makes me really feel really nice. And I thank the fact that as crazy as my life has been, is that I understand one thing clearly. And that I'm, without getting anything, I know that whether I understand it or not, I've been gifted. And I don't, and that can mean anything to anyone. They say gifted, like, what are you kidding, the 99-cent store? No, seriously, whatever, you know. But I've always felt like, because of my fantasy life and having Uncle Remus and the Blue Fairy, and Snow White, and Jiminy Cricket, and the Big Bad Wolf, who never really hurt anybody. Slurp, slurp, slurp. I was able to stay good through hard times. And the Golden Rule, that's my religion, the Golden Rule.
How do you feel about this record release of yours?
I think it's like, what? Never think you know anything. That's what I think about it. To have this coming around at this point, at this time, these songs, I mean, I couldn't play guitar. You can hear. I mean, and I still struggle. But you know, I could hear the songs. And so they just said, you know, just sit there and just play her songs. So I just, you know, there we go. So I'll tell you one thing. Meeting the people at Light in the Attic is what really excites me, because it's them being there and with Lee and all that that's brought it around to my corner for whatever it is.
We were going to ask you, what are you up to these days? What are you working on now?
I'm the slowest person. I'm trying to get my friggin' songs recorded whatever way I can here in this little living room at Hard Island. I don't know anything beyond that except to try and get better every time. And Moon taught me a few things. Well, shit, he taught me a lot, mainly because I could never keep rhythm very good. Not that I don't have it, but I get lost in all the spaces. So it's really hard. And so he had to bring a basket of apples over and cut them up and everything in pieces for me to understand 3/4, 1/16, one thing. And I sit there, you'd think that you're asking me to like do like an atomic equation. And it's, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
So I'm over there hoping Zelda, that is my old computer, stays while I'm trying to finish these songs, you know, and then we'll see if anything happens. We'll see what happens from there, you know.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excited to hear it.
Well, we'll see if you are or not.
Just want to say thank you for talking to us.
Okay, but I'm going to say one thing.
Sure.
When I did hair up at Criterion Music, and I told Matt and I told Hunter, more than anything, because I don't know, I would love to be a benefit for them. Because it's already a benefit for me. I'm hoping that I am some surprise in the fact that they're so sweet, and it reminds me of the best of the 60s when I go up there.
Aw.
The very best of the 60s, and when the 70s were still good and they hadn't gotten all.
I mean, you are 100% a benefit for all of us at Light in the Attic, because this is, I know personally, and I think for most of us, this is our favorite type of release and project, when it's something that is so good and relatively unknown that people are just like, how did this fall through the cracks? You know, and then it becomes this new part of the canon.
You know, I'm just saying, you know, I mean, see, that's what I mean. You just don't know anything. You don't know. I never knew. The only thing I will say is because I have inspirations, and I was trying so hard through the years to get my songs out, and I'd count the pennies in between haircuts and try to do everything and use my last friggin' things and try and mail out my tapes, and I couldn't understand how come these are good.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to like my voice, because that is certainly a questionable deal, you know
like
what I
the
mean?
best
But
part.
you know, whatever. And we'll see even if you like what I'm up to, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but I know, this is crazy, but I know in my heart, even if people just can't get into it, I know that the gift in the song is good. Maybe they need to be produced differently. Maybe there's too much of this and not enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing most of it yourself, you just do the best you can. Not that I haven't played with some good players, but it's been on the fly, really. Okay.
Thank you for having us over. Thank you for talking to us. It was really wonderful to hear your story, and we look forward to sharing it with everyone.
Well, thank you. I hope that, you know, you don't have to give them Dexamel or something to keep them awake.
Diamond sundrops fall, kaleidoscoping patterns on the floor of quiet forest. Silver tinsel brook, exploding crystal bubbles on the dreams of my tomorrow. Then take me to the palace, to the realm of gold October. What time is only now, forever our tomorrow.
All right, so before we go on, we're going to try something new. We wanted to crowdsource stories from you, our listeners, about women in the music industry. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, the music industry, and particularly the vinyl world, are very male-dominated and often aren't the friendliest spaces for women. So we asked females that worked at record labels, record shops, that were performers, producers, etc., or just people who love music, are record collectors, DJs, and that kind of thing. We asked for those people to please write us with their experiences and that we would share some of them on the show. So one of the first responses we got was from a woman named Robin W., and her message says, "Hey Lita, huge fan. Quick anecdote out of many. I went to school for audio engineering. I dreamt of becoming a female producer and deeply understanding the gear, signal flow, console repair, and the physics of sound. Not only in college classes, but in internships with male-saturated studio after studio, a popular mnemonic device for resistor color codes, BROYGBVGW, was recited to me. Bad boys rape our young girls, but Violet gives willingly." So, just some disturbing evidence of a male-dominated industry. It's still taught to students and interns to this day.
Dang.
That is fucked up.
So gross.
I don't even know where to go with that. I can't believe that that is commonplace in sound engineering teachings.
Yeah.
So that's a very concrete example of ways that sexism appears in the music industry.
I have an email from Andrea B. With just a few quick little instances. Okay, Andrea said, "Just saw your Insta call out. Great idea. I'm a record collector / DJ based in Sydney, Australia. Here's a couple of sexism examples from my travels. Record collecting. Record shop in Edinburgh. I ask where the 45s are. Older man says, quote, 'You know you need a record player to play these.'" Nice.
Good one. I've definitely had some stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really easy to feel unwelcome in like record shops as a chick. Mm-hmm. When I'm in a record shop or at record fairs with males, I have had a lot of, "Oh, you must be so patient" comments. They think I am waiting for the males to hurry up and finish shopping for vinyl, and that I'm idly going through the racks to kill time.
That really grinds my gears. That is so annoying.
Yeah. DJing. I DJ with my husband. Invariably, I get a lot of, "Oh, are you helping out?" comments, or "Can I speak to the DJ?" And she said I have more too, but these are just off the top of my head. And I know like female DJ friends of mine have said the same thing, like Chloe.
Or they feel like they have to look hot to be respected or to get attention as female DJs. They have to dress up all fancy and a lot of times they aren't recognized for their abilities. They're just recognized for their aesthetic.
Yeah.
Which is very common throughout many occupations.
Yeah.
And even in our office, sometimes with people that come in and out of the office, I feel...
Oh, yeah. It's so common for, a guy to come into the office and just kind of look around for a guy.
Mm-hmm. Or assume that we're secretaries or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure you ladies can commiserate.
Yeah.
We had a few other responses that were also really good, but some of them are a little bit too lengthy to read on air, so we will post them anonymously on the blog post that goes along with this episode.
Yeah, so check out more online, and if you guys or girls, want to share stories like these, please send them to podcast@lightintheattic.net.
Well, I woke up one cold gray morning. Looked outside and it was pouring. But it's okay now, 'cause I'm happy. Don't need blue skies and lofty clouds. Don't need the people hanging round. It's okay now, 'cause I'm happy in my loneliness. So solitude, a heart at rest. I'm happy.
Next up, we have Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith interviewing Suzanne Doucet.
So Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith is not a Light in the Attic artist for now.
She's a friend of the Attic.
She's a friend of the Attic. I think this is maybe the first time that we've had someone on the podcast who's not directly related to a release.
Ira Kaplan.
Oh yeah, but he was
interviewing the Shags.
That's true. Yeah. Kaitlyn is an electronic musician from Orcas Island, but she's based here in Los Angeles now. And she works, I think, primarily with synthesizers, and her synth of choice is a buchla, which I hadn't heard of until I heard about Kaitlyn. And buchlas are these crazy...
You should look it up if you haven't ever seen one.
Google image that. It's nuts. It's just like knobs and wires and more knobs, and she's just like this wizard and makes these incredible compositions that are really beautiful, and some of them have really cool animations with them on YouTube that are like very entrancing.
So it made perfect sense that we would pair someone like Kaitlyn up with someone like Suzanne Doucet, who, as we mentioned, was featured on our Microcosm box set. Suzanne began her career as a pop star, of all things, in Germany. Very, very upbeat, had a variety show that she hosted, and then somewhere along the line decided that she was done with pop music and went into New Age, which is crazy, and she is incredibly successful at it.
Yeah, she was kind of like a pioneer of the genre, and she founded the world's first specialized New Age music retail outlet.
What was it called?
It was called Only New Age Music.
Genius.
And it was in West Hollywood. She founded it in 1987. Suzanne has been working in the New Age music world for decades now, and she's worked a lot of different roles within the music industry. She's done A&R, she's been a producer, she's been a sound designer, she's a composer, she owns her own label.
She's a Renaissance woman.
Yeah, she's a badass and like incredibly knowledgeable. And now she does, I believe, like marketing consulting for New Age artists and record labels.
We set up a phone interview and recorded the magical conversation between Suzanne and Kaitlyn while Jackie and I huddled in the archive closet listening to the sparks fly.
Yeah. It was one of those moments where I'm like, my job is cool, because I was sitting in a closet with Hillary at work just listening to Kaitlyn and Suzanne nerd out about really interesting stuff, and I was just sitting there like writing down everything they said on my laptop to be like, look this up later.
They really were kindred spirits. I mean, they've never met before, and they just hit it off immediately. You could tell just over the phone that they really had a connection.
Yeah,
it was really cool listening to it.
They had some like crazy similarities and similar approaches to music making. Here's their chat.
Is that Suzanne?
Yeah.
Hi, nice
Kaitlyn.
to meet you over the phone. And I love your music so much. I listen to it all the time. I practice yoga to your music a lot.
Great, oh, cool. Great. I'm so happy you do. And I actually heard some of your tracks too, and read a little bit about you. And I thought we have a lot in common, because I see music too, and I can hear music in. I mean, I always see images when I hear music.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so amazing to hear, because I don't know if you've had this experience, but my whole life I always thought that's just how people experience music, and it was so funny to find out that that people don't see images. Yeah, so that's really wonderful to hear that.
and I realized, oh, I see all these instruments and all the sounds in a space with colors and forms and all of that, and they don't.
Yeah. Which, don't you feel like that's such a amazing tool? Because it's at least for myself, I feel like, once I hear a sound, it's like, oh, okay, I know which like color family this is in. So it's like I know which sounds are going to sound complementary to this, or what are going to be a part of that world. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. And also, like when I started doing meditation music and New Age music, then I realized how important it is to use that also as a tool for to make sure that the music is relaxing or healing, or I would actually hear, when I hear music played on the radio or wherever I hear it, I can hear pretty much what the mindset is of the person who recorded it or the musician who plays the instrument. So then when I started doing New Age music, I would kind of, I would hear in the music, I would see the images of the person who did it. So I thought that to kind of, make sure when you record that the images you have in your mind are in alignment with what you want to express.
Yeah, that is so important. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I have so many questions for you. I'm really fascinated about what was that moment for you where you decided, or not decided, but I guess you realized the power and the weight of the music you were making, and how it can affect someone's life, just like how you were talking about how you can hear the mental space that individual was in when they were making it. I'm really curious, like, what was the moment for you where you realized, like, I need to take responsibility for this and make music that's going to make people feel good?
My father was a psychologist, and he was a Jungian. He studied with Carl Gustav Jung, and he was a very, very amazing person in terms of his insights and his projects and all of that. So one of his projects in the late 60s was that he started investigating superlearning. And superlearning had to do with people being in a very relaxed state and bringing them into an alpha wave state via music. And so they used music, classical music, all kinds of music, and they realized that certain types of music induced that very relaxing state of producing alpha waves in the brain. And so my father, who had no idea about music, came to me and said, why don't you do some research on this? You're the musician in the family. I really need to know why and how this works. So I started going to the university library and, got books and so I stumbled into this incredible field of Pythagorean harmonics and what music and sound really is in terms of reality, what the reality of music is. And I was just in awe. That kind of changed my life. So my first kind of experimental adventure was this triple album I did with my sister in 1970, which was called Slip Out Meditation. And that was really like a 3 month completely breaking away from any traditional form of music, of musical expression, and just taking any sounds and to record them and play out of the moment, and then later just edit it all together like a movie. That was like an amazing joy to do that. Took us like so, and then I thought, hey, so many people wanted copies. Like we would put. I never intended to make an album. You see, that was just the joy of creating what we created. And then people would say, how can you make me a copy of this, you know? And I said, oh, my God, now it's 30 people want copies, you know, maybe we should go to a record label.
Yeah.
And they can make the copies, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it happened. And it was like the most amazing deal I ever made. We went up there to Phonogram in Hamburg, which was one of the biggest companies in Germany. And within 3 hours, we had a signed contract. So it just became clear to me one day that when I was listening to other people's music, that I would all of a sudden understand, because I understood how my own thoughts and my own feelings were actually transmitted by my music, because people would tell me they saw the same images I saw when I created it. But it was all of a sudden like, oh yes, of course. If you listen to, you know, the New Age musicians that are truly there with their heart and their mind, then you will get those images that they transmit through the music, and then you the effect, and it will. So it's not just the instrument, and it's not just the sound, but it is also the intention and the transmission. That's why you have the title of the cassette, transmission.
Yeah. Wow, that is the best definition I've ever heard of New Age music.
Thank you.
I'm so curious about all the different roles that you've played in your life, because you've achieved so much and you've started so many projects, and I'm curious the way that those came about, if you intentionally sought them out or if they just naturally came about, you know, from you being an A&R person to a sound designer to a pop singer to a producer.
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody really there who can do all this, because I think it's just happening. And for a long time, I thought that I was a person who was doing these things. And then I realized that, no, it's just happening. It just all happened. And I'm aware of what is happening. So, yeah, you could say from a relative point of view, you could say yes, that I was doing a lot of things and different things. I was probably very lucky that I was kind of not bound by conditions. I was always kind of a rebellious soul that just had to go and be creative and express certain things. But I think it's just, it just manifested through me. So that's how I see it today. It's not like me, this person who did all these things. I don't think there is somebody doing it. Not really. I think that's a concept that comes afterwards. You do something spontaneously, and then later you say, "Oh, I did this." So that's really an afterthought. This personal I thing.
Are you still researching in music?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm researching every day. It's like it never ends. You always come across new insights, and it just never stops, I guess. I'm listening to a lot of music, and I'm also working with other artists. I help other artists to release their CDs and do all the things they need to do. So that's kind of a coaching, teaching job I do. And so I'm also producing yearly compilations of about 40 artists for compilation, which is an MP3 compilation of New Age musicians from all over the world. And I just did finished up compilation number 9. So that allows me to listen to a lot of new music and see what's happening,
Yeah.
But I'm kind of really exploring this. Let's put it this way. I said many years ago that New Age music is actually a question of consciousness. So I wouldn't even limit it to what now is determined the genre of New Age. I would say somebody like George Harrison at the time was a New Age artist.
Yeah.
Donovan with Atlantis. That was clear to me. That was a New Age artist. So I don't think it's confined to certain musical styles, but it's more like the consciousness that comes through the music from certain artists. So to me, Debussy was a New Age composer. Mozart was a New Age composer. Bach was a New Age composer. When I listen to Bach or Mozart or Debussy, it's like this dimension is happening. And I know that a conscious person was creating this music, even if it's played now by, the music is so strong that the musicians who play it kind of melt into that. Yeah, and I had this experience in Synthorn. I went to Synthorn for 3 months in 1982. And that's what they do. You have, even when you do vacuum cleaning, your vacuum cleaner has a name. Like you name your car, if you want to know what's wrong with the car, you ask. Anyway, so in that way, you can really, instead of thinking of machinery or technology as something dead and, kind of like just an object, no, it's all consciousness. It's all awareness if you allow it to be. Then you can.
That's actually what got me into working with analog synthesizers, was falling in love with the idea that I'm sculpting electricity and felt that these synthesizers had a breath. And that's something that I feel lacks whenever I'm playing on a digital synthesizer or on a software synthesizer. And so I'll usually have to figure out a way to add breath to it and add that sense of live electricity. Wow, well, this is all incredibly interesting, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to chat with me.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and yeah.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Lynn Castle. Her album Rose Colored Corner is available now for pre-order at lightintheattic.net and will be in stores June 9th. Thank you also to Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith and Suzanne Doucet. The song you just heard is Suzanne Doucet's track Shiva's Dance, which is on our compilation The Microcosm and is also up on the Light in the Attic YouTube. Thanks as always to our wonderful editor, Michelle Lanz.
We love you, Michelle. If you're interested in learning more about women in the music industry and their experiences with sexism, and also men's perspective on this, I would highly recommend checking out this website called Pink Noise. It's really great. We'll link to it in our blog, and it has interviews with a lot of really fantastic people kind of centered around feminism and the music industry.
Yeah, and as we said earlier, if you want to share any of your personal experiences with us, email us at podcast@lightintheattic.net or reach out on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And then also, we wanted to mention that we're working on a new episode of the podcast that's going to be a behind-the-scenes episode. So if you have any questions, any burning questions for Light in the Attic, about, anything about how a record comes to be from idea to final product, be it about sound engineering or design or A&R, anything, email podcast@lightintheattic.net, and it'll help us to shape that podcast, and hopefully we'll get your question answered.
That's all we have for you today. Thank you for listening to the Light in the Attic podcast. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Tune in next time.
Bye.
Bye.
There was an in-love lady Barber who wanted what she could not have. She climbed up the mountains too high. She fell over and over again. She wanted to capture the sunshine, to touch each brand new drop of rain, to travel the length of a rainbow and never come back again. She wanted to lie in straw meadows, to feel capital love everywhere, yet way, way down deep inside her, she wondered if she really cared. Like the one-eyed weeping willow who only saw half what was there, she fled from reality's real things to a fantasy world, disappeared. Barber, who wanted what she could not have. She climbed up the mountains too high. She fell over and over again.